amazing, beautiful, delicious, moist, the perfect backyard brisket. Let's roll. Get that smoke ring. My goodness, I didn't even squeeze it. Look at that. Like I said, we are doing a hot and fast brisket, the best brisket you've ever made. It's gonna be perfect. There's a few tips that we're going to look at and tricks that we're gonna do along the cook. Now, the whole key to getting a tender, moist, penetrated with flavor brisket is going to be consistency. Consistency in fire management, consistency in flavor, consistency in time. And so the key thing here is keeping that temperature consistent. And that's why I like hot and fast so much. You're more than likely going to be able to keep something consistent for 5 to 6 hours than 16 to 18 hours. Call me crazy, but I like to eat the same day I'm cooking. So we're gonna cook this and we're gonna try to keep it under 8 hours from the time we start trimming to the time we eat. And that's gonna include 1 to 2 hours of rest. That's pretty impressive if you ask me, and nobody's ever gonna know that you did it hot and fast. We're gonna get our grill started up. We're using the Ugly Drum smoker. I've got my charcoal started. It's gonna be at 300 degrees. I'm gonna get that set, and we're gonna do a quick trim up on this brisket. Now we're gonna focus on 3 areas when we trim this brisket. We're gonna focus on saturation, so how much fat is on the brisket. We're gonna take all the fat off the lean side, and we're gonna leave about a 1/4 inch on the moist side. Moist. And then we're gonna worry about the shape. Now it's extremely important that we keep consistent airflow around this brisket as well as consistent temperature. Consistency with temperature, airflow, all that good stuff is key to having a good turnout. Now shape also means that those edges aren't gonna have hard corners, they're not gonna burn and crisp and shred when we slice it. So we're gonna worry about saturation, shape, and lastly we're gonna worry about silver skin. That silver skin is gonna keep our flavors and our spices and the smoke from penetrating that meat. Now remember, we're only smoking it for a short amount of time before we wrap it. So we gotta make sure that that silver skin is off and out of the way so that the flavors will penetrate and enhance the beef flavor. I'm gonna do a quick trim up. We'll come back and I'll show you how I like to use a binder on my briskets. All right guys, so obviously before we start this off, we wanna make sure that we have a good cut of beef. This is a prime brisket. I would suggest always using prime if you can. If you can't, just make sure you inject it with some broth or consommé to help make up for that lack of intermuscular fat. This thing has lots of intermuscular fat, and we're gonna take off that exterior fat. Like I said, we're gonna focus on saturation, shape, silver skin. I like to use a sharp knife, and I like it to be relatively long because I wanna make sure that I get even cuts all the way across it. I've got a couple of brisket trimming videos I'll link right over here, and you can take a look at those. I'll even link them down below in the description. For now, we're just gonna get into this. So we've got this all trimmed down. We've got a good pile of fat here that we can save for tallow or whatever we want to make out of it. We've got a good pile of hamburger meat here. That's when we were just shaping it. We're getting the shape ready for the smoke and all that good stuff. And we've got some trash here. This is silver skin and whatever skin got grayed and discolored from the hot bath during packing. So we'll save these and throw these to the dogs, but we've got a nice smooth shape here. For the most part, my flat is all the same thickness, my point is all the same thickness, and the point's gonna generally cook a little faster than the flat anyways. So from here, let's go ahead and get a rub on it. We're gonna start our rub with a binder. So let's get set up. I'm going to show you what my binder is and we'll get it rubbed down. This is my binder. This is spicy mustard and Worcestershire sauce. I used equal parts of each and whisked it together just a little bit. You don't need a whole lot. So I'm just going to take a little bit and we're going to get it rubbed on there. People say that you don't taste the flavor of your binder, and usually with a big cut of meat like this you don't, because it takes so long to cook and the amount of flavors you add on it. But binders almost always are made up of something with spices in it, so it's literally impossible for it not to add a flavor to something. You just may not taste mustard per se, but you taste some of the spices that were in the mustard. So I like to use spicy mustard in Worcestershire sauce, and I think it gives it a really good beef base to our rub. Our rub is just simply our salt, pepper, garlic, and onion mixture for Lone Star BBQ rubs. Make sure you press it in. Now once you've got your binder on, you don't rub your meat anymore. You pat it. And I like to keep it on this rack because I like for the air to be able to flow evenly all the way around it during a brisket cook. Again, rub it with whatever rub you want. Just know that a good salt and pepper base rub is going to really help build your bark. Get it all pressed in. That's going to even everything out. Okay, I'm going to let that sit for about 2 minutes while the smoker is finishing getting up to temp. I'm going to go wash my hands. Okay, while our smoker's getting up to temperature, that smoke is starting to burn that really good, clean, light blue smoke coming out of it. It's at about 275 right now. It's going to climb just a little bit more and I'll adjust those dampeners. But before I do that and get the brisket on there, I like to put just a layer of black pepper on top. Some pretty good coarse ground black pepper will work. I like to use the 16 mesh, but whatever you like. Again guys, just make sure you have a good salt and pepper base. You can use whatever rubs you want, however much you want, but you need a good base. We're going to get that thrown on there, let the pit climb up, and get our brisket put on there. I've got my grill about halfway open on the intakes, completely open on the top. Now notice my exit, my exhaust comes out that side of the grill, so we're going to make sure that we spin this brisket every 45 minutes during the cook. So I'm going to keep it on the grate that it's on, keep it suspended from the actual grill gate, and we'll place it on here that side down and leave it alone the first time for an hour and a half, not touch it, and then we're going to spin it every 45 minutes and add a little extra something to keep it moist and delicious. Alright guys, our brisket's been on for just about an hour and a half. It's cooking between 275 and 300 degrees depending on where I check it in the smoker. We're going to go ahead and take it and open it up, check and see how the bark looks, see if it's starting to get firm, and we're going to spin it 180 degrees to make sure that that heat is transferring across the brisket very evenly. Remember, my exhaust is offset, it's not in the center, so we're going to keep that thing moving every time we check on it. If that bark's where we want it, we'll spritz it. If not, we'll spin it 180 and we'll come back in 1 hour and check on it again. Looks like it's setting up pretty nicely. I'm not sure I want to go ahead and spritz it yet. It is starting to get pretty firm, but I'm not quite sure I'm going to spritz it yet. I think I'm going to spin this 180 degrees and we'll check on it in the next 45 minutes or so. All right, guys, it's been another 45 minutes, so this has been on for roughly 2 hours and 15 minutes now. Let's go ahead and pop the top, take a look at it. Oh yeah, that bark is really looking nice. It's getting great color all the way around it. Oh, it's set in, nothing came off. Let's get a little spritz of water on there, and we'll make it, we'll spin it around and throw it back on there for another 45 minutes. Alright guys, this is going to be our third time to check on this brisket. It's been sitting at 275 to 300 degrees for almost 3 hours now. We put it on and we checked it after an hour and a half, and then 45 minutes, and now it's been 45 minutes later. So this has been cooking for 3 hours. Now remember, I expected this to cook for 5 to 6 hours, so we're probably halfway through. I am going to go ahead and check probe tenderness and temperature on the inside with my Inkbird thermometer. Link to this below if you want one of these. These are great. They're very affordable. And it helps me out if you buy from the link. It doesn't cost you anything extra. We're going to go ahead and get this checked. If the bark's exactly how we want it, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. When I wrap it up, I'm going to add a little something extra to it that's going to help you stay moist. I mean, your brisket. Yeah, that bark is looking really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and check this thing. We're gonna see what it's like. If it's right around 160, 165 and this bark is already set up really nicely, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it. Sitting at 150. So I think I'm going to spritz this one more time, and then I'm gonna wrap it in about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and spritz this, throw the lid on it, and then we'll wrap it. Alright guys, it's been another 20 minutes or so. That means this has been on here for almost 3.5 hours. Let's go ahead and pop over to the Ugly Drum smoker and check to see what our internal temperature looks like on the brisket. Like I said, if it's right around 165 or a little higher and the bark looks amazing, we'll go ahead and wrap it up with a little secret that I'm going to give you to keep it moist. Alright guys, so our brisket's been cooking for just over 3 hours, right around 3.5 hours. And our internal temperature is looking really good, between 165 and 170. And our bark looks absolutely amazing. It's nice and moist on the outside, but the bark is set. So what we're going to do now is wrap it. I've got some paper out here, and what I'm going to do is add just a little beef tallow. This is some beef tallow that I made from this brisket's trimmings. We don't waste anything. We made ground beef out of the trimmings, beef tallow out of the trimmings, and we're just going to add a little bit of it to this. And now, it's kind of silly to do this after you cook it, because this paper is going to absorb it and hold it, and even during the rest, this paper will do just fine holding it. I know a lot of people say that the secret to doing it is to unwrap it, add it, rewrap it, and that's kind of silly. There's actually no reason behind doing that. Add a little bit of this, or beef consomme, or butter, or anything like that. This is just going to concentrate that beef flavor back into it with the tallow. So we're just going to pour a little on top and get it wrapped up. Keep that bad boy nice and tight as you wrap it. Remember which side is fat side down. That's fat side down. Now it's up. Tighten it up. And it's that side down again. We're going to put it back in there just like that. That paper's going to hold that beef tallow in there and keep this brisket moist during the final hours of our cook. Alright, we're going to let that finish up. Got a couple hours, 275 degrees. Once that thing's probe tender, we're going to let it go just a little bit longer. Why? I'm not going to overcook it. We're cooking hot and fast here, guys. So it's different than low and slow. At low and slow, once it's probe tender, you pull it out, you let it rest, and then you enjoy it. But hot and fast, when it's probe tender, you want to let it go an extra 20 to 30 minutes because it's really going to cool down quickly when you pull it out and let it start resting. And we want to make sure that it's not tough. We want to make sure that it really absorbs those juices that are in the paper and that it really becomes tender during that resting process. Alright guys, so this thing is probe tender. We're going to leave it on for another 20 minutes. As soon as that's done, we're going to go ahead and pull it off. And I like to rest it in the oven because it's pretty well insulated and self-contained. I did go ahead and put it in a foil pan. So 20 minutes. And guys, you can rest this in a cooler or anything you want. The oven's just easier for me because it's insulated. It's already in a pan. I can just throw it in there and not have to worry about the dogs chewing on the cooler or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, throw it in the oven. Alright guys, so let's recap before we slice this brisket. It has been 8 hours on the dot since we stuck it on the smoker. We did get our smoker going to 2275 and 300 degrees. We trimmed this up and we were focused on the saturation, the shape, and the silver skin, getting everything nice and perfect. And then we rubbed it down with a little bit of binder. We used half and half Worcestershire sauce and spicy mustard. From there, we used just a mixture of SPG, and that SPG put down a great base layer for our bark building. After that sat for a little while and our grill got up to temperature, I hit it with a layer of coarse 16 mesh ground pepper. From there we stuck it on there and we left it alone for an hour and a half, didn't touch it. We spritzed it at an hour and a half, turned it 180 degrees, and checked it every 45 minutes until just after the 3-hour mark, and the bark was set and it looked great. And the internal temperature was 160 to 170 degrees. From there, we wrapped it in some paper and we added some beef tallow. Now this was the rendered fat from this brisket. Remember, adding beef tallow right now to rest it in doesn't do anything. If you're going to add beef tallow, you add it to a paper wrap during the stall. That's when you wrap it. Wrapping it afterwards, it's kind of a waste. This is going to be delicious. We let it finish cooking till it's probe tender, extended that cook another 20-30 minutes, pulled it out, and let it sit in a cooler or an oven that's not on, and just somewhere where it can let the ambient heat continue a slow cool down until it's easy to touch, probably 150 degrees. Now, we're going to pull it out of this pan. We're going to throw it on the cutting board. We're going to slice it open, give it a taste. We're going to check the tenderness, the juiciness, the bark, and the flavor. Let's take a look. So much juice coming out of there. That's going to be amazing. Give a slice right down the middle. See how she's looking. Oh, look at that smoke ring. My goodness, I didn't even squeeze it. Look at that. Here's a slice. That sliced super easy. Fell right over. We got that point. That point almost extended all the way down to the end of the flat. And look how tender that is. The pull apart is amazing. It's not falling apart in my hands, but I just barely pull and it pops apart. Juicy, flavorful. This is a great brisket. This is the perfect brisket. Guys, follow these steps. Let me know how they worked out. Use your favorite rub, but make sure you have a good base, a good top layer of pepper. Make sure you get a good consistent heat. Guys, you won't be disappointed. This is Brisket Medic. I'm telling you, drink more water. I love you. Make sure you haven't subscribed yet. Hit that subscribe button. Click that thumbs up if you enjoyed seeing what you saw. I'll see you on down the road.